Maximo is back and hornier than ever. I mean angrier than ever, because he has to save the world from a bunch of evil robot zombies, while still searching for his lost love, Sophia. Welcome to Maximo vs. Army of Zin, the second title in the Maximo series and the continuation of the Ghosts and Goblins series venture into the third dimension. Released in 2004 by Capcom as a PlayStation 2 exclusive, it ticks all the boxes a direct sequel should. New characters, better graphics, more streamlined mechanics, and more of the platforming and hack and slashing that made the first game a beloved classic. However, some things have changed slightly regarding the gameplay, all thanks to Dante, the demon killer. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? No, it doesn't. So with that zinger out of the way, let's arm ourselves with our trusty sword and shield and try our best to keep our armor and dignity intact as we enter the world of Maximo's second adventure. The game's intro cutscene is for sure grand in scale, but the lack of the first game's beat slapping sorely disappointed me. In any case, we begin with a massive siege at Castle Hawkmoor by an army of robotic demons known as the Zin. And here I was thinking Zin was the main bad guy, silly me. Unsurprisingly, the Zin are too strong for the army to handle, so Lord Morgan, the leader of Hawkmoor's protectors, seals himself with the Zin inside the castle's vault, charging his heirs to protect the vault with their very lives forever. Well, that's all fine and good, but where's Maximo? Oh, he's just chilling at a bonfire while some thieves try to shake him down. The charming scene is interrupted by a girl running into Maximo's muscular arms, begging him to save her village, which the evil Zin have overrun. Now Maximo, along with his best buddy the Grim fucking Reaper himself, must defeat the demonic army and save everyone once and for all, since there's no sequel after this unfortunately. Compared to its predecessor, Maximo 2 tries fleshing out its lore a tiny bit more, adding characters such as the Baron, who used to be one of Maximo's rivals but ultimately helps in opening the castle's vault. Lord Bane, the main antagonist, is your typical evil character who used the Gearmaster, the girl mentioned earlier, to create his terrible army. He's so unremarkable actually that the devs decided to bring back Achille, the main villain of the previous game. He doesn't slap anyone unfortunately, just rips the Gearmaster's soul out of her body and has his soul crushed by Grim. Maximo sacrifices a part of his soul to revive the Gearmaster's Mondo Gazangas and they all live happily ever after. Except for Sophia, of course, her fate remains unknown. Yeah, the story is typical for such a game, but it's perfectly serviceable, and I loved how they evolved Maximo and his relationship with Grim. Our hero is much more confident and snarkier now, ready to defeat all evil that opposes him without hesitation. As for Grim, well, he's a wisecracking skeleton that crushes souls, among other things, and helps us in tough situations. What more could you ask? They are the perfect duo for an epic fantasy adventure. When it comes to the graphics and the sound, things haven't changed that much from the original title. Well, I guess the textures are a bit more detailed, or maybe I'm seeing things, I don't know, but the overall fidelity felt more enhanced. Thankfully, the game maintains its iconic art style, which is the strongest point regarding the presentation, all thanks to Susumu Matsushita, a Japanese manga artist who provided concept art and artwork for various games and TV series, famous for his cartoony style and his love for Big Booba. I mean, can you blame the man? If I could draw, everyone would get extra big mommy milkers. Anyway, embarrassing myself aside, Maximo 2 is a very pleasant game to play. The animations are very polished and the effects are punchy, making the combat a delight. The sound effects remain mostly the same, so I don't have anything special to comment on them. They are as good as they can be, so I'll just move on to the things I didn't quite like. Let's start with the music. It's boring. I mean, it's okay as a basic background soundtrack, but it lacks the atmosphere and the Ghosts and Goblins vibe the first game had. The compositions are original at least, and not ripping off the old tracks, but they're nothing special. Plus, some of the levels barely have any music to begin with, making the experience that much dull. Still, some tracks were memorable enough and fitted well with the level's mood. Let's enjoy one of them together. Moving on, the second thing I didn't quite like was the game's overall feeling. This is not a good game to play when it's sunny outside, because most of the adventure takes place at night. There is an okay environmental variety, caves, villages, airships, and whatnot, but they all have this depressing, drab atmosphere that makes everything feel samey. I get it, the world is destroyed by the Xin, it can't be all sunshine and rainbows, but come on Capcom, give it a rest, will ya? Minor complaints as far as I'm concerned, since Maximo 2 is just as good looking and interesting as its predecessor. It doesn't really feel like a Ghosts and Goblins title anymore, but it still looks and plays great, with a foreboding but cartoony atmosphere, giving the whole experience a more unique character. At first glance, Maximo vs Army of Xin appears similar to the original game in terms of gameplay. You jump around, slash foes, and collect new equipment to upgrade your hero's arsenal just like before. However, some new additions have taken the experience in a new direction. Right off the bat, the game's flow is more streamlined and accessible. You can select between a normal and a hard mode. The hub worlds have been replaced with a more linear level system. Saving is now much easier and doesn't cost anything, and you can even control the camera like in a proper 3D platformer. Well, you don't have full control, you can only rotate it horizontally, which can be annoying when you need to look down, but still a massive improvement overall. So does that mean that the game is much easier now? Yeah, at least for the first few levels. The platforming and the fighting were balanced. There were no bullshit traps out of nowhere, so the cause of my death was not being careful rather than being tricked or overwhelmed. I was getting kinda disappointed by how easy the game was actually, compared to its brutally hard predecessor, but after the first boss fight, the game removes the training wheels and throws you off a cliff immediately, bombarding you with large groups of enemies and tough platforming challenges. And although this is technically a Ghosts and Goblins game, it felt more like a Devil May Cry Lite to me, because a heavier emphasis has been placed on the combat. Maximo now has two weapons he can use, his sword that's quick but not that strong, and a massive hammer that's unsurprisingly slow, but much more powerful, with the ability to turn your enemies into metal pancakes or popsicles. You also have your trusty shield that can block attacks and hit the Xin like a boomerang. There is even a combo rating system, and you can buy new moves and upgrade them as well, but they use your super meter and are really hard to pull off, especially the 360 moves. Most of the time I was doing combos randomly, and the only move I was able to do reliably was the Stinger, which thankfully is very damaging and satisfying as hell when upgraded. Overall, combat is much more interesting and smoother compared to the first game. There is a nice variety of melee and ranged enemies to keep you engaged. Blocking is easier and doesn't deplete your super meter, the feedback and collisions have improved, and getting hit is not as punishing as before. There still were battles that were challenging and even annoyed me a bit, but fighting enemies never felt unfair to me, because I could rely on my buddy Grim for any sticky situations. Collect enough souls and you can transform into him to completely destroy your enemies. So yeah, combat is pretty fun, but what about the platforming? It's without a doubt the most challenging element of the game. Many levels feature difficult jumps on small platforms and narrow paths, and guess what's below? That's right, nothing! Nothing at all. Most of the platforming is over bottomless pits. So one false move or a little slip up because of a wonky collision and you'll be plummeting to your death. Thankfully, the checkpoints are merciful and I never ran out of extra lives, but still it was a nerve-wracking experience. Although Maximo's movement has improved, he's still pretty stiff, no pun intended. He has no air control and his momentum is all over the place, which can make you lose a lot of lives and even game over if you're not careful. Hot take, I know, but I don't like it when a game has a life system, because I'm a disgusting casual. However, it was never that big of a deal here. You can grind previous levels for extra continues or even explore to find even more of them. The level design is great. Every area is full of secret places and chests that give you extra armor, power-ups, and coins with a K for some reason. Come on guys, seriously? Don't you know the letter K has been copyrighted by Mortal Kombat? Anyway, the power-up system has changed compared to the original title. You can no longer find upgrades or boxers in the wild, you have to buy them from the shopkeepers scattered throughout the level, as long as we don't get killed by an enemy. Any upgrade you acquire stays with you, even if you die, and you can choose which pair of boxers to equip whenever you want. So things are incredibly lenient, especially for a Ghosts and Goblins game. Some would say all these changes have made Maximo 2 stray from its original goal of providing a brutally difficult platforming experience, turning the game instead into a more casual game for despicable normies to enjoy. And that's a totally valid point. The game is indeed easier than the first one, but there's still a lot of depth to it if you're willing to give it a chance. Every level has secrets to uncover, treasure to find, and people to rescue, along with many difficult segments, so patience, skill, and quick reflexes are still rewarded. If you're a god gamer, sure, many mechanics are more stripped down or more accessible, but in my opinion these are good changes, because they allow the game to focus more on the gameplay and provide a difficult experience without obscure bullshit or random unavoidable beginner traps. At the end of the day, we're not dealing with some arcade game anymore. A good challenge must rely on the player's skills, not the depth of their pockets. Maximo vs Army of Zin is an enjoyable game. The graphics are great, the animations are smooth like butter, the combat is engaging, and it's awesome exploring around for secrets and power-ups. Sure, the movement can be clunky, the platforming annoying, and some of the mechanics are more streamlined, veering away from the classic Ghosts and Goblins formula. Even so, if you enjoyed the first game, I'm sure you'll also have a great time with this one. There are many hidden details to appreciate and extras to unlock if you're a perfectionist. And if you find the game too easy or short, you can always punish yourself with a hard difficulty mode. All in all, a very fun and underrated game. Come on, Capcom, bring Maximo back! What are you even doing? This is prime material for a remaster. Yeah, it's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. Oh well, we can hope at least. Anyway, that's all I had to say about Maximo vs Army of Zin. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, comment your thoughts below and subscribe for more stuff. You know how it goes. You can also support me on Patreon or become a channel member for early access to my videos and other perks. Have a great day, and until next time, take care and have fun!